We're going to talk about choosing to age gracefully. All right, and point two.
Yeah, point number two.
Point number two is a beautiful one. I love this
She
one.
loves this one.
Point number two is expecting things to be positive.
Yeah.
This is such an amazing, talk about stress when
Yeah.
we expect everything to be negative, but when we can come from a place that even the challenges of life are there, and because there's something positive coming behind it. Now, of course, when we're in the middle of the hole, or in the middle, when we're at the bottom of the hole, and we don't see, the light at the end of the tunnel, it's hard to stay positive. But if you have the expectation that at the end of the tunnel there's something good, and that you can just anticipate, and then you can embrace and open your heart while you're in the tunnel, while it's dark and scary, but you can anticipate that, wow, something good is there. So that's a good point.
It is, and there's a writer, Napoleon Hill, he writes a book called Think and Grow Rich, and one of his thoughts is that it takes more energy and effort to think negatively than it does to think positively. And that may come as a bit of a surprise, but if you think about it, it's more enjoyable to think about positive things, even if it is a daydream, even if it is something you're fantasizing about. Wouldn't you rather think about the good than the bad?
Yeah.
And just think about what it does to your body when you think about the positive things. So it pulls you forward, it lifts you up. And again, I think physically and emotionally and spiritually, it's one of the strengths that you can have for your life, is to have that positive expectation that things are going to turn out for the good.
Yeah, there's also something I would like to recommend here. There's the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? Now, it's quite a few years old already, but it really portrays quite well the art of the thinking positively and negatively and what it does to our body. It's actually when we see it and we can relate to it. If you don't really are in a place where you can tangibly or physically sense the difference or understand the difference, certainly watch that movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? It's quite nicely done.
It's very well done. It will cause you to shift your thinking.
Yeah.
It's very well done, and how that it really helps us understand there's a strong influence on our lives as a result of how let's look at point number three then.
Point number three.
And point number three is, and the secret is, hang out with people who inspire and encourage you. Now, doesn't that make sense? If you think about a fire, if you have a coal, there's all kinds of fire, coals in the fire, or wood coals that are there. If you take one of those coals and you put it out maybe 2 feet away, 3 feet away, it dies pretty quickly. But you keep the coals in the fire and they all stay hot. And so that's really what our lives are meant to be like. We're not meant to be isolated and living alone and trying so hard to make things work. And one of the big passions Stephanie and I have is, why are we trying to do things all alone anyways when it comes to even our events and things that we're planning to do? There's something about being around people with similar thinking, similar energy, similar spirit, and as you do, there's certainly an increase of strength in your own life.
Yes, and certainly, it's a no-brainer, right? We do enjoy to be around people who are joyful and who elevate our spirits versus, drag us down and everything. But there is a little bit of an art to it, because I'm going to push this a little bit further here. Because we are, positive beings and happy and joyful in our life, Doug and I, doesn't mean we avoid the naysayers and those that are struggling, because otherwise it would be just about, what's in it for me and it's all about me. But it's really about knowing that when you hang out people for your social life, for your, for nurturing yourself, for your own growth, then you will want to choose someone who is slightly above you. When I say that, it's not that there's a better and there's a worse one, but it's about knowing that you're encouraged to go and improve yourself, and don't hang out with those that have less or just struggling. But that said, Doug and I love to go out sometimes just for a drink, because not just we want to go out, and I love staying at home alone, but it's about knowing that we are an inspiration just because we are happy and healthy and loving. And so we don't do it just for ourselves, that, we can't go out. It's about sharing. So the difference here, it's like, it's okay to be with people that are resonating on a little bit of a lower level than you, but when it comes to hanging out and having mentors or people that inspire you, hang out with those that have more, those that are slightly above it, and they are dedicated to help you come to where they are. which is really important.
It is. And again, in the context of what we're talking about, the context is how to age gracefully. And so, again, the context, as Stephanie said, it's not about only hanging around with certain kinds of people. It's when you talk about back to our life purpose again, where you're going and how you want to get where you're going. Do you want to go in the direction you're going with people who are criticizing you, saying you can't do it? Those are the kinds of things we're talking about stripping and removing from your life, because we want to be moving forward in a direction with energy and life. And if we try to move forward in that kind of a direction with all of those negative things around us, sure, it challenges us, and we can learn to say, when these things come and they face us, we know how to deal with them. You're not going to avoid them. It's just about finding those people that actually align themselves with where you're going to give you that momentum and strength you need. Recognizing there's going to be all kinds of people in between, but you'll have the strength and support to face it.
And there was a practice earlier on this year that was about that, particularly cleansing your life, cleansing your relationships. And it is hard, there's no doubt. That's called setting boundaries. And we do have problems sometimes, because maybe there are old friends that have been in our lives for a long time, or even, worst, when it comes to family members. But you know what? When there's negativity and attacks and unloving patterns, then you need, as a person, as a being, you need to honor your temple and not let that negativity come in. That doesn't mean that the door will not be open of your temple and that the love will come out of your temple and you continue loving that person. But there is a time where you need to say, sorry, it's beyond boundaries here. So there is a practice on that. Feel free to check out the blog is blog.purposefullove.com. And that's again blog.purposefullove.com. You don't put the www at the front, just blog.purposefullove.com.
Well, how about
Awesome.
practice number 4, or
Practice
secret number 4, sorry.
Yes.
All right.
Well, practice number 4 is about paying attention to what kind of fuel we put into our body. And I love to compare this with, if you have this beautiful Aston Martin or BMW or whatever car, in fact, is that you will make sure that you give good fuel. You're not going to start putting, dirt or salted water in your car because it's not going to go anywhere. In essence, our temple, our body, is the same. It needs some juicy, beautiful fuel. And so what we're talking about here is really about, we are what we eat, right? So are we fresh, ripe, juicy, and tasty and yummy like the beautiful food we eat, or are we greasy and sluggish and, crunchy and of some other food that we would be tempted to put in our bodies? So that's really the concept. Being aware, being conscious.
That's true. When you think about what goes into your body, and of course there's so much information on health coming out these days about how to take care of our bodies, what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat. And there's so many different opinions still around what's out there, but collectively there's a good sense of what we should not be putting into our body. So there's a strong focus, and Stephanie and I have always had a strong focus on what we put in our body for food, because it makes a difference in how you feel, how you look for certain, but also the disease factor and how we can, take care of this body, this temple that God has given us, so that we can carry out our purpose and live our lives in comfort, because we just don't want to have these things in our lives. But many people don't change bad eating habits, so they get into all these things. And Stephanie and I believe in a holistic view of health. We don't think, you just do supplements and then you're fine. We believe in eating healthy. We believe in exercise. And as we talked about stress and the thoughts that go on inside of our body, all of that's part of the holistic health. And so, whenever we do look at any supplementary type of product that's out there, we're always very careful to do our research and make sure that it isn't replacing anything, but it's simply in addition to what we're already doing in our lives.